Is the promise of extra cash and, flexible work really the ultimate path to financial freedom? Or are we maybe just signing ourselves up for a new kind of modern-day slavery, this relentless pressure? Welcome to the Money Debate. Today we're doing a deep dive into side hustles, path to freedom or modern-day slavery. We're going to explore the appeal, the benefits, but also the darker side, the hustle culture, the burnout, the mental toll it can take. Our mission here is to help you navigate this pretty complex landscape, pull out the key insights from what others have experienced, and will help you figure out what's truly worth your time and energy. Okay, so let's start unpacking the scale of it all. It really feels like almost everyone you talk to these days has some kind of side gig, right? Is that just me, or are the numbers actually that big?
No, you're spot on. It's not just anecdotal. The data really backs that up. Side hustles are, well, they're everywhere. Our sources show that over 36% of Americans have a side gig right now.
Wow, over a third.
Yeah, and get this. If you broaden that definition just a bit, like including things like answering online surveys, maybe selling stuff online occasionally, that number jumps to as many as 93% of people saying they have some kind of extra income stream.
93%.
Oh,
That's almost everyone.
it's genuinely pervasive. It cuts across the whole economic landscape.
And is it just younger people driving this? I kind of assume it's mostly millennials or Gen Z. But then again, I hear older folks talking about it too.
That's a really good point. And yeah, while Gen Z, they're at 48% and millennials at 44%, they definitely lead the pack. But it's not just them. Not at all. We see a pretty significant chunk, 24% of baby boomers, people age 59 to 77, also actively doing side hustles.
Okay, so definitely not just a young person's game then.
Exactly. It's a broad economic shift affecting almost every age group. And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale, the global side hustle economy, it was valued at something like $556.7 billion in 2024.
$500 billion. That's just staggering. It really highlights how much is happening outside the traditional 9 to 5.
It does. And new ones are popping up all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sources indicate over 400,000 new business applications are filed every single month in the U.S.
Every month.
Every month. And a huge chunk of those, probably more than 250,000, are likely side hustles. So you're looking at nearly 3 million new side hustles starting up each year. It's incredibly dynamic.
Wow. Okay, so with these massive numbers, why? What's really driving people? Is it purely about the money, or is there something deeper going on?
Well, money is definitely a big piece of the puzzle, no doubt. Around 80% of people with side hustle businesses say their goal is to increase income, and 27% specifically say saving money is the main driver.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. There's been a real shift in terms of needing the money. Back in 2021, only about, 11.8% said they absolutely needed the extra cash just to make ends meet.
Okay.
That number jumped pretty significantly to 21.6% in 2024.
So more people are doing it out of necessity now. That's a big jump. But still, that means most people aren't primarily driven by desperation, right?
Exactly. That's the key distinction. Even with that increase, nearly 80%, specifically 78.4%, are not struggling financially. They're pursuing these side hustles for other reasons.
Like what? What else are they looking for?
Personal freedom is a big one that comes up for about 31% of people. They want more autonomy,
Mhm.
Another 5% say it's mainly a creative outlet for them. And kind of surprisingly, 4% even describe it as a calling, like a sense of purpose.
A calling. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting only about 20% are actually looking to quit their main job. The vast majority, 80%, they just want the extra money to, enhance their lives somehow.
Okay, that brings us to the really critical question then. What are people actually earning? Are we talking life-changing sums here, or is it more like pocket money for most?
Ah, yes, the earnings.
Yeah.
It's a really mixed bag, and this is where things get quite revealing. So the average side hustle income is around $11,122 a month, which sounds pretty decent, right?
Yeah, over $1,000 extra sounds good.
And this is but the median income, it's way lower, just $200 a month.
200. Wow.
And maybe even more surprising, half of everyone surveyed actually makes less than $100 a month from their side hustle.
Less than $100. So that average is clearly being pulled up by some really high earners.
Precisely. That gap between the average and the median tells a crucial story. For most people, it's a modest supplement, not a path to getting rich quick. That aspiration of big money might be fueled by those outliers, the ones making serious cash, but it sets an often unrealistic benchmark for everyone else.
That's such an important point for listeners. So if the median is that low, it suggests most people aren't putting in massive hours either.
Exactly right. Time commitment correlates pretty directly with income. For instance, 75% of those earning under $100 a month, they're spending 5 hours a week or less on it, often 0 to 5 hours.
Makes sense.
Now, compare that to folks making $500 or more a month. About 85% of them are putting in at least 5 hours a week. And if you look at the really established side businesses, the ones pulling in over $5,000 a month, a good chunk, 39%, are doing it in 20 hours a week or less, which, works out to a pretty nice hourly rate, $60 to $500 an hour sometimes.
Okay, so time definitely equals money here, generally speaking. Any difference between generations on earnings?
Yeah, interestingly, millennials report the highest average side hustle income. They average around $1,129 per month.
And the types of hustles people do, it seems like anything goes these days, from driving for Uber to, I don't know, building complex online businesses.
Yeah. Oh, the variety is huge. You've got online businesses like blogging, podcasting, selling courses that's really popular, e-commerce, obviously. Then there's freelancing and consulting in all sorts of fields. Local services are big too. Think cleaning, pet sitting, even things like knife sharpening or pet waste removal.
Aha, knife sharpening.
Okay, yep. And of course, the gig economy jobs, Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash. Then you have things like self-publishing books, IT consulting, virtual assistant roles. It's a long list.
Where's the best money typically made? Any patterns there?
Generally, the highest earning potential seems to be in online businesses, freelancing or consulting, where you have specialized skills, and some of those local service businesses. It's scaled right. And something that's really gaining traction now is AI-powered side hustles. We're seeing like a 28% jump in interest there, people looking at how AI tools can help them earn more efficiently.
Okay, so this all paints a pretty compelling picture of, taking control, finding autonomy, building something for yourself. It really does sound like a path to more freedom.
That's definitely the allure. And the benefits can be really significant. I mean, first off, income diversification. It reduces your reliance on just one paycheck, right? Creates a financial safety net. You know that saying, one job equals 1 point of failure? A side hustle helps mitigate that risk.
Good point.
Plus, it really fosters personal growth and skill development. You learn so much by doing, and that's critical today. Something like 52% of workers feel they need to acquire new skills in the next year just to keep up. Side hustles are a practical way to do that.
And that flexibility aspect must be massive, especially after the last few years and shifts in work culture.
Huge, absolutely huge. The ability to set your own schedule is a major draw. Get this, 63% of Americans say they prioritize work-life flexibility over a pay raise.
Wow.
And remote work just makes that even more possible. You can really tailor your work around your life. Beyond that, it's invaluable experience if you're thinking about maybe starting your own full-time business someday. Around 40% of workers are actually contemplating that leap into entrepreneurship in the next couple of years.
So it's like a testing ground.
Exactly. A lower risk way to test ideas, develop that business sense, build some confidence. And hey, if it really takes off, for some people, it can even lead to that digital nomad lifestyle earning income that isn't tied to one place. That's pretty profound freedom, right? Traveling, maybe lowering living costs.
Yeah, that narrative of liberation is really powerful. But you mentioned a darker side earlier. This pursuit of freedom, sometimes it feels like it can morph into a different kind of trap. We hear about the FIRE movement a lot in this context, too. How does that fit in?
Right. FIRE financial independence, retire early. It's a really important piece of this conversation. The basic idea is you save and invest super aggressively to hit a wealth target that lets you become work optional.
Work optional, so you don't have to work.
Exactly. And there are different flavors, fat FIRE, lean FIRE, coast FIRE, barista FIRE. They all involve different levels of spending in retirement or maybe still working part-time.
So it's all about intense saving now for ultimate freedom later. Sounds good in theory, but
Yeah.
does it always work out that way?
Well, that's the debate, isn't it? On the one hand, it absolutely instills fantastic financial habits, saving, investing, being mindful of spending. That's undeniable. But it often gets criticized for being, well, a bit elitist, maybe unrealistic for a lot of people. It can require really extreme budgeting, cutting back on things that bring joy now, deferring gratification to a future that isn't guaranteed.
Yeah, sacrificing the present for the future.
Right. And critics also ask a really fundamental question. Is a life completely without work actually fulfilling? For many, work provides structure, purpose, social connection, things that money alone can't buy.
That's a deep question.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, is chasing financial independence at absolutely any cost truly the path to a richer life? Or could it become its own kind of prison, just a different sort?
That leads us perfectly into this idea of hustle culture. Let's really unpack that darker side of the
Yeah.
coin. What does that look like, and where does it come from?
Yeah, unfortunately, some sources we looked at pretty bluntly state that American culture is hustle culture. It's this idea that many of us just unconsciously push ourselves to work constantly, almost believing it's the only way to get ahead. It taps into this sort of toxic productivity mindset where your output, how much you do, somehow equals your moral worth. Rest, enjoyment, even basic self-care can start to feel lazy or undeserved.
Where does that mindset even come from?
Its roots are pretty deep. You can trace threads back to historical beliefs like, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And even some interpretations of the prosperity gospel, the idea that financial success is a sign of divine favor, although that's often secularized now.
And social media seems to pour gasoline on that fire,
Yeah.
promoting this nonstop, always-on lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. Social media is a huge amplifier. You see influencers, these gurus constantly pushing the narrative. Quit your 9 to 5, hustle 247, sleep 4 hours, crush your goal.
Yeah, the rise and grind stuff.
Exactly. It creates this often totally false image of what success looks like, making just being average feel like failure. It leads to this immense guilt if you're not constantly achieving, or if you dare to take a break or a vacation before hitting some arbitrary target. We saw mentions of people like being hospitalized for stress but still feeling guilty about not working. It's intense self-inflicted pressure.
That's genuinely disturbing. What are the real-world impacts of this, physically, mentally?
The consequences are pretty alarming, frankly. We're talking about what some experts call a global pandemic of burnout. Like 2 out of 5 tech workers report experiencing it. And burnout isn't just feeling tired, it's linked directly to depression and anxiety. The World Health Organization considers depression a leading cause of disability worldwide, costing the global economy something like $1 trillion a year in lost productivity.
The $1 trillion.
Yeah, and the physical toll. It's stark. Long working hours contribute to around 745,000 deaths every year from stroke and heart disease.
Good grief.
And psychologically, it leads to harsh self-criticism, this constant fear of failure, even something called depersonalization, where you feel detached, like you're just watching your life instead of living it.
It sounds less like individual choice and more like people are caught in some kind of system pushing them towards this.
That's definitely a perspective that comes through in some of the critical analyses we reviewed. Some describe hustle culture as a toxic scam operating within a rigged system. They argue that, quote, smart people are working very hard to squeeze revenue out of our lives. Again, we're just presenting these views as they appear in the source material. This viewpoint often critiques advice coming from, say, privileged positions, maybe someone who inherited a business, because that advice overlooks the vastly different starting points and circumstances most people face.
Right, so just work harder doesn't work the same for everyone.
Exactly. It can lead to real self-loathing when you are working incredibly hard but not seeing those promised results. And then you see the extreme end of this pressure with the overemployed phenomenon.
What's that?
It's people secretly holding down multiple full-time remote jobs at the same time. There's a whole Reddit community for it with over 300,000 members.
Wow, multiple full-time jobs.
Yeah. It just highlights the intense pressure some people feel under the system to constantly maximize earnings, no matter the personal cost. It's a direct symptom of feeling trapped by these demands.
Okay, so if this relentless chase for more can be so damaging, how do people actually break free? How can you find a healthier balance with work, money, and just life?
Well, the core message that really comes through from a lot of the sources is maybe surprisingly simple. Just chill out a bit.
Yeah.
Embrace moderation.
Chill out. Easier said than done sometimes.
True. But the point is, being driven is fine. It's healthy even in moderation, but not driving yourself into an early grave. It really starts with self-reflection. You need to figure out your own values, what truly matters to you, and then set some firm boundaries. Non-negotiable limit.
Like what kind of limit?
Like actually logging off when your workday is supposed to end. Like learning to say no to demands that are unreasonable or just not aligned with your priorities. It also means getting serious about time management, but in a healthy way. Prioritize tasks, set goals that are actually realistic, and this is crucial. Actively schedule and take breaks. And self-care, eating well, sleeping enough, getting some exercise. Those aren't luxuries. They need to be non-negotiables for your own well-being, not things you do if you have time.
So it's about fundamentally redefining what success even means for you personally, moving beyond just constant achievement.
Exactly that. You have to actively challenge that pervasive idea that being average is frowned upon or somehow means you've failed. Instead, try embracing acceptance, acceptance of where you are right now, finding joy and maybe slowing down sometimes in simplicity. Some sources talk about the healing being found in accepting yourself, not in constantly chasing the next
That
goalpost.
makes sense, knowing what you actually want.
Precisely. Because, as one source put it, until we decide what we want in life, there will always be someone else to fill our buckets with their expectations and demands. Staying authentic, aligning your work, whether it's your main job or a side hustle, with your actual values, helps fight off that feeling of depersonalization we talked about. It's also important to recognize when your drive is coming from a place of anxiety versus genuine need. Is this hustle truly about survival or growth, or is it an anxious part of you working overtime even when things are okay? Acknowledging that anxiety without letting it run the show is key.
And finding purpose, even in the difficult stuff, that can help too, right? Make the work feel less like a burden.
Definitely. There's something called the progress principle. Focusing on making meaningful progress, even small steps in work that matters to you, can really reduce that feeling of overwhelm, even when the work is challenging. Maybe keep a little log of small wins or people you've helped. Seeing that tangible impact can really refuel your sense of purpose.
And presumably not trying to do it all alone helps.
Absolutely vital. Seeking support, whether it's from a community, friends, family, or even professional therapy, is so important for processing stress and maybe untangling some of those deeper issues around money and work ethic that might be fueling the unhealthy patterns. And finally, use technology smartly. Those AI tools we mentioned. They can boost productivity, save you time on your side hustle, yes, but use that saved time for rest or other parts of your life, not just to cram in more work. Leverage efficiency. Don't let it enable endless toil. Ultimately, side gigs, when approached thoughtfully, can be great tools. They can help you build skills, foster resilience in a changing job market where lifetime employment is rare. They can offer real agency, not just become another trap.
It really sounds like the true freedom isn't just about the money, is it? It's more about agency, self-awareness, and consciously defining your own version of a fulfilling life, regardless of how many income streams you juggle. This has been fascinating. We've seen the clear benefits, the financial resilience, the growth opportunities from side hustles, but also the very real dangers of getting sucked into that toxic hustle culture. So here's a thought to leave you with. If some sources suggest the cemetery is truly full of overachievers, what kind of legacy are you actually working towards? And how do you define enough for yourself in a world that constantly seems to demand more? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into side hustles, path to freedom, or modern-day slavery. If you found this valuable, please do subscribe to The Money Debate wherever you get your podcasts. And just a reminder, this discussion is for entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice.